Hello and welcome back. You have a video lesson today on solving multiplication and division equations. Just one step today, so not too stressful. Remembering that when we're looking at equations, we're solving for an unknown value that has one specific solution to make the sentence true. So here we look at multiplication, property of equality. That just says if you multiply the same number from each side of an equation, the two sides remain equal. So looking here, if I start with 5 and that is equal to 5, I do the same thing on both sides for them to remain equal. With an equation, you have a number and then an operation here divided by normally, which is equal to something. So what we do is we undo that operation by multiplying. And we can see here, if you remember your fractions, that's over 1 because 2x over 2, if you multiply it straight across, 2 over 2 is just 1. So this represents our solution that would keep both sides of the equation equal. Then, division property of equality, we undo multiplication with division, so then that keeps both sides of the equation true. So if here 5 times the number equals negative 60, I undo that multiplication with division, but I do it on both sides so that it remains equal. Yes, that was my baby crying, but she's done now. So, on we go. We are going to be good about using those train tracks when we're solving for the variable because it reminds us that the goal is that we're keeping everything equal using those properties. Another thing you're going to want to do is make sure you are remembering your integer rules when multiplying and dividing. So, here we go for multiplication equations. Multiplication equations, what we use to undo multiplication equation is the division property of equality. Because that's inverse operations, we're going to undo what's been done. So since h was multiplied by 150, we're going to undo that by dividing by 150 and finding out what is h by itself. Because 150 divided by 150 is 1. So then we do the same thing on the other side. And what I find out is, this one isn't as easy for me to do on the top of my head. What I do know, and I like to show you what I'm thinking on the side, what I know is that 150 times 2 is 300. So I know that I need 2 of those. I need 150 again times 2 for a total then of times 4, which gave me 600. And then there's 75 left. 75 is half of 150. So at this point, I know that I have 4 and 1/2. Then my job is to check that by plugging it back in. So checking that your solution is what actually makes both sides of the equation true. You simply replace the value of the variable that you found into the equation and make sure both sides work out. So on this side, I would probably change this actually to be either 150 times 9 over 2, or you could do a decimal 4.5, which is probably more likely. So I know 4 times 150 is 600. I know half of 150 is 75. So I actually check that both sides remain equal to know my value is true. So I'm going to see if you can try the ones below. I'm going to jump over here actually to solve, this should say, division equation. Remember that solving a division equation, we're going to use our inverse operation. We are actually going to be using the properties of equality for multiplication to undo division. So here, I'm going to kind of rewrite this right here. A number divided by -3 is -7. So you have to think about those inverse rules again. Make your train tracks. And I'm thinking, well, I know a positive divided by a negative gives me a negative. So right away, I know my answer should be positive. To undo dividing by -3, I actually multiply by -3. I can put that over 1. Because again, if you multiply these across, negative 3a over -3 would just be that 1, right? Because any number divided by itself. So I'm left with just 1a. Whatever I do to one side, I have to do to the other. -7 times a -3 is a positive 21. Then, of course, I plug it in to check. Make sure that it makes my solution, proves that it's true. 21 divided by -3 equals negative 7. And I know that a positive divided by negative is a negative. So this is not my solution. This is my solution. This was me proving that my solution is correct. So this might be a place where you might be feeling comfortable and you want to try both sides, or maybe you want to watch a couple more and then go from there. That's up to you. You are in control of the pace. I will kind of guide you along. So you decide if you're ready to try or pause. Pause and try, or keep watching for a few more and then try on your own. So here I have a number divided by number times x equals 72. So I make my train tracks, reminding I'm trying to keep equal. I undo multiplying by 8 by dividing by 8. A number divided by itself is 1. I'm left with x. 72 divided by 8 is 9. This is my solution, but I have to actually check that it works by plugging it back in. 8 times 9 should be 72. And I actually do the math. 8 times 10 would be 70. So 8 times 9 is 80. 8 times 9 is 72, which makes my solution correct. All right, you decide where you're at. I'm going to make my train tracks again. A negative 4 times a number is 28. So I divide by negative 4. A number divided by itself is 1. I'm left with one single n. Whatever I do to one side, I do to the other. Positive divided by a negative is a negative, and I'm going to check it. Negative 4 times, plug in that value for n, should be 28. A negative times a negative is a positive, so this proves my solution is correct. All right, one more multiplication, see if you're ready. Make my train tracks. Negative 12 is negative 6 times a number. So I undo multiplication with division, inverse operations. Same thing on both sides. A negative divided by a negative is a positive. 12 divided by 6 is 2. K is left alone. Check my solution. Negative 12 should be negative 6 times a positive 2. And a negative is from a negative times a positive. So my solution of K equals 2 is correct. Hopefully you feel good about those, whether you pause or try it on your own. Let's do the division, knowing we solve division with the opposite operation of multiplication. So I'm going to make my train tracks. What number divided by 4 is negative 8? So I undo and I times by negative 4 because that's 1 and I'm left with 1y. Do the same thing on the other side. Be careful, there is a negative there. A negative times a negative is a positive. I'm always going to check my solution. So I think that 32 divided by negative 4 should equal negative 8. And a positive divided by a negative is a negative. They do both equal negative 8. So that makes my equation true. Down here I'm going to rewrite it. M divided by y divided by 5 equals negative 9. So what number divided by negative 5 gives me negative 9? So I multiply by 5. M on both sides, I do that, is equal to negative 45, and I check it. So is negative 45 divided by 5 equal to negative 9? A negative divided by a positive is a negative, so my solution is correct. Remember, not my solution, my solution. All right, one more of these. I bet you're ready to try it on your own if you haven't already. This says, what number divided by negative 2 is 30? So we do our train tracks. We undo dividing by negative 2, and we multiply by negative 2. And again, I'm doing that because what I get is negative 2b over negative 2. And you know a number divided by itself is 1. Do the same thing to the other side. I get negative 60. So I plug it in to check to the original equation. 30 is supposed to be negative 60 divided by negative 2. A negative divided by a negative is a positive. 60 divided by 2 is 30. My solution is correct. So, a couple word problems here. You're going to do great. I want you to try them right away. Try them. So pause here and try it on your own. Remember to write out what you read. Come back when you're ready. So I read that an adult lizard is about 5 times as long as a hatchling. So I don't even move on. I'm given information and I see the word is. I know that means equals. I know we're talking about an adult lizard. And I know we're saying 5 times as long as a hatchling. I'll name that H. Next it says if an adult lizard is 11 centimeters. So I see that word is again. I know equals. I see my adult lizard and I know it's equal to 11. The question I also see is how long is a hatchling? This is my unknown, so that is the variable that I'm going to use, which is H. So to set up an equation for this, not just solving, set up the equation. I have 2 values of A, so I can replace that. So I know that an adult lizard, that's 11 centimeters, is 5 times as long as a hatchling. So then I have my equation, and then I can solve. So I want to check that you can solve that to know how long the hatchling is when you return and we go over this. Next, same thing. Can you write and solve an equation? The record amount of precipitation is 1/10 of the amount of snow fallen. I see is, and I see precipitation is 1/10. So you can write that as 1/10, or 1/10 the amount of snow fallen, 1/10 of S. There's another way you could say precipitation is snow fallen, and 1/10 of that are divided by 10. Then it gives me more information. We know the precipitation amount, so we know P is 13.6. Then we also know that we don't know how much snow has fallen, so we don't know S. So I just replace what I can in this equation. So I could write it as if there's 13 6/10 precipitation, that is 1/10 of the total amount of snow. Or the same thing is 13 6/10 is that snow and 1/10 of that. These are the same equation. Can you find out how much snow had fallen? And then challenge, can you change that inches into feet? See you soon.